there's the surprise. So at any rate, those of you who prefer hearing person talk, those of you who need voice, that's right. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Gale. I didn't think I was going to have it on for quite this long. I thought we were just going to jump straight in, but there was one last thing I needed to explain. So I hope you enjoyed listening to that in the background, because you may recall that was the grand finale of the playlist back when I was actually on Miss Corpse's stream. You will not be hearing it in the playlist, because that was actually part of the joke, self-promoting in her stream. Not much point in playing my own music on my own stream, you know? Maybe some other time. So at any rate, another thing I forgot. Gotta put this on for any latecomers who might be coming in. That said, doesn't look too visible. Let me see if I can, there we go, that should contrast enough. And we'll make it even bigger on top of that. Alright. Gotta make it nice and obvious. Gotta make sure people are aware of what's going on. And with that, we'll turn the background music off, and if everybody's in who's going to come in, we will start the playlist. Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2... 2.5, 2 3/4, 1. So, yes, whoops. Almost forgot to turn the audio capture off. That would have been awkward. Ain't no DMCA's happening here, hopefully. That's the entire point of, putting it through CyTube. So, at any rate, this is the first song that's playing. Very similar to, what I brought, to the CyTube playlist. So, I opened on the proper stream with the song, and I decided I would open again. So for those of you who missed it, the reason I'm starting with this as opposed to any of my crazy metal shit that I listen to is because this song has a lot of childhood nostalgia for me, along with just about every other song on Journey's first Greatest Hits CD. That was the main soundtrack to my car rides as a child. This Journey's Greatest Hits. What I didn't mention back in the CyTube is that it was not the only CD my mother would play, but we'll get to that momentarily. So yes, Journey, absolutely amazing band. I've even managed to see them live once, with Arnell, of course. Not that that's that bad of a thing. They hired that man for a reason. He knows what he's doing. And, for their age, they did actually put on a very good show. They, really knew what they were doing. Very, I don't want to call them underrated, but they do have quite a bit of, they are very world-class musicians, but they don't tend to get as much credit as they should, as far as, their instrumentation. Because, of course, they're playing pop music, they're playing relatively simple things. Commercial music, in a lot of ways, so... Of course, they're not the first band you think of when you think of, damn, shredding technical masters, but they would not have gotten to that point had they not, had a lot of, good session chops. Which actually brings me to the fact that, they didn't always sound like this album, or any of their, later output. They actually started basically as a freeform jazz outfit. Their first 3 albums were all largely improvised, barely even had vocals in them. Just an instrumental jam band sort of idea. Yeah, let that sink in. Needless to say, that didn't get them a lot of commercial success. They didn't become an item on the airwaves until their album basically said, okay, fuck this. We're done with this jazz shit. We need to make you a pop item. You're going to hire a singer and you're going to get us some goddamn hits. Thus, they hired the one and only Steve Perry. Or, not Steve Perry, something Perry. Yes, I forget Journey's lead singer's name. Silly me, but either way, I hired him and the rest is history. Or no, it was Steve Perry. I got him mixed up with Joe Perry in my head momentarily, the guitarist of Aerosmith, but no. Steve Perry is Journey's singer. Or former singer, I should say. He's been out of the public spotlight for the better part of 3 decades at this point, unfortunately. If you ever get the chance to see their Behind the Music documentary, poor gentleman has had a hard life. But I hope he's doing good wherever he is. Anyways, that's the end of that song, and now for the first addition to the list. Or should I say, thing I had to excise from the original list. So yes, this would probably qualify as a bit of a left fielder, but before you ask, this album was actually not what I was talking about. So who here remembers random mixtapes, mix CDs, where you just compile a bunch of songs ripped off of the radio, or in the era I grew up in, just random MP3s you got off of LimeWire or whatever? The other soundtrack to my car rides was one of such mixtapes. Included songs like Horse with No Name, Have You Ever Seen the Rain by CCR, and the song you're hearing right now, assuming you're in the CyTube. Right, that makes sense. I could see that. Our radio was functional, but of course, radio's a bit of a crapshoot. For all the times they play a song you want to hear, they're probably going to alternate between songs that you would rather crash your car than continue listening to. Hence why we had these CDs in the rotation. We, just to ensure that we had something we actually wanted to listen to playing. So at any rate, when I was in my late single digits, early tens, this was essentially one of my family's songs. This was one of the song that really stuck out to us from that mixtape. For no particular reason, mind you, I'm hardly an Air Supply fan. I've never listened to any of their other music. It's just that this song just stuck out to me when I was a kid. And it's just stuck with me to the present day. It's just strange how this sort of thing works, you know? Like I said back at the CyTube, back when I was with Corpse, just, songs just stick with you for no good reason, even if you're, like, what you hear in your formative years really does sort of, stick with you. Just against all logic and proper criticism, it just sticks with you. Doesn't matter. Hence why such a light and fluffy band ended up on this playlist, which is otherwise going to be a lot of stuff you're going to expect. Well, then again, some of the surprises, the theoretical surprises, are not going to be so, because again, you already heard this back on Saturday. Yep. Classic pop key change. Truck driver's gear switch, they call this, when they just change key at the final chorus. A lot of, if you do it wrong, it's going to sound completely lazy. You can argue that this is a case of that, but again, doesn't matter. I grew up with the song, ergo I'm willing to overlook the flaw. To say nothing of the fact that a lot of, just the basic radio demographic isn't going to think of it that way. They're just going to think, oh wow, that's new. Despite the fact that all you did is pitch it up a couple steps. That's just the lowest common denominator for you, but if it works, it works. What's it matter? So, now for the back to something you already heard if you were there on Saturday. The one, the only, the immortal. I'm letting the intro play. Yes, be quiet, this one's good. God, that hit. Just never gets old no matter how much I listen to it. And I've listened to the song a fucking shitload. Because again, this was a childhood game of mine. Something that I didn't bring up in the CyTube is that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with my cousin Prince Neil. Prince Neil Highgaine. I've brought him on stream a couple of times. And both times have been platform fighters. We played Project Plus and that Nick Smash game that came out a few months ago that everybody's forgotten about by now. There's a reason for this. This was our game. This is what we bonded over as kids. To say nothing of the rest of the GameCube's library. We also loved Kirby Air Ride, Super Mario Sunshine, just all those games. All the ones you would expect. And of course, can't forget the 1,000-Year Door. We weren't very good at that one, but we loved it anyways. We were kids. We didn't know how to handle RPGs besides fucking Pokemon. But I guess, again, this first little bit is the childhood nostalgia sort of part of the set. Just the stuff I liked no matter what. The stuff I grew up with. Dynamics change. God. So yeah, this is one of the things I miss about, like, sure, I got into metal, but sometimes I miss the ability to really change dynamics like this. Like, going from really loud to really soft. You can't really do that in metal. Like, even the supposedly quiet, clean parts would probably only be, like, midway through the classical listings. I don't remember the term off the top of my head. I know piano is soft and fortissimo is strongest, somewhere in between those. I usually have that entire set memorized, because I was playing at being a serious musician. I wanted to know the proper orchestral terminology. But I've just forgotten them since then. I've gotten stuck in my ways as far as metal. I really do want to get back into doing orchestral music again. Because this is my yardstick for amazing music. I want to write a song like this eventually. But alas, I'm stuck playing songs like the next one. Which you already know what it is if you're here Saturday. Just let it fade. That's the thing with these YouTube uploads, I only do a couple of loops. And here we go again. Sonic Goddamn Heroes, what I'm made of. And yes, for some things I didn't bring up on the CyTube, this is... See, we heard this in proper context. We actually went to the trouble of actually getting to the final boss in this game. Any adults doing that nowadays would probably go, fuck that, but we were kids. We loved Sonic. We were willing to go through all that misery just to get to the final boss. We wanted to see what happened in the game. And this almost made it worth it. Definitely made it worth it at the time. If I had an afternoon free, I probably would give it the old college try to actually complete the game again, but then I remember, then I'd have to play the special stages, and no thank you. I'm fine just listening to this. So yeah, this is another game Neil and I bonded over. We were indeed both Sonic children. Which only makes sense that Sonic Mega Collection was one of our first games together, so... It is indeed, it's all interconnected, So yeah, this was one of the songs off of that soundtrack that has aged the best, far and away, but... There is, of course, if you were to ask me what aged the second best, this is probably a left field answer, but I would probably say Team Rose's song aged the best. And there's a reason for that. There is one tendency of the lyrics of the vocal songs of this game that just makes it out-and-out childish no matter what. Name-dropping the characters. That pretty much immediately puts it into cartoon theme song territory. Disincentivizes any adult who didn't grow up with it from listening to it. But this song Team Rosa's song, despite being completely disparate musically, they have that in common. You could remove them from the context of the game and just show them to somebody, and they would go, oh hey, that's actually a pretty nice song. The irony being we hated Team Rosa's song as a kid, for the obvious reason. We were manly boys. We thought girls had cooties and shit. You know, that phase of growing up. So of course we hated it then, but again, as an adult coming back to this game and the soundtrack, that's just what you realize. Oh hey, that just sounds like any other radio love song. You could just play that at a party or something and nobody would be any the wiser. Nobody would think, oh, that's from a video game. Whereas Team Sonic's theme, that name drops Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Team Chaotic's theme is the absolute worst for that. They named a goddamn song after them. Even Team Shadow, they name drop all the characters, despite that edgy atmosphere otherwise having aged pretty well. It just... You understand what they're saying, and then you're like, it's from a kid's show. That's ridiculous. Granted, they're still fairly enjoyable if you're willing to turn your brain off a bit, but again, you take this and Team Rosa's theme out of that context, and it's... Damn, that's actually pretty nice. Also, the ending is the only part of the song I don't like. Not just in the joking, I want to listen to it again way. Just because I think it's a lame ending. Anyways, another new song. A song from Brawl, which was another one of our childhood games. Speaking of things that haven't aged well. Yes, indeed, F-Zero songs are bangers, as I would say. I didn't get the chance to say this in the CyTube for the obvious reason that this song was left off of it, but the F-Zero songs included in Smash Brothers are probably a good part of the reason I became a metalhead as well. Especially the F-Zero X songs I included, just ported from the game. It's like, that just blew my mind. It was like, holy shit, that's amazing. I want to hear more stuff like that. Hence, they said, oh, that's metal, look that up. Then I got into metal. Then I got into the game that we're going to talk about with the next song. And eventually, actually ended up writing my own music. That's how it goes. So yeah, I did intentionally choose versions of the song that only looped once or twice just for time's sakes, but again, I just hear these and I want to go, okay, fuck the stream, I just want to go listen to this, I want to go find an extended version and listen to it then. But alas, that would not reflect well on me as a host. But yeah. Especially, funny thing, they actually have one song. I'd never noticed this until I pointed it out, but somebody pointed it out. But, speaking of F-Zero X, like, that basically had the Doom or Guilty Gear execs thing, where the composer literally was just cribbing from actual metal songs. Like, I believe it was Devil's Force theme, Devil's Call in Your Heart. Has a riff that's literally just the one from Hard Work from Carcass. And there was a song from the N64 DD expansion pack that was literally just a take on Master of Puppets. Silly Japanese composers, but say what you will about the plagiarism, but at least it introduced me to great bands. Now, next new song. This was from the setlist of Guitar Hero 2. And this is a band that I would never have heard of had this song not been included there. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure most of us forgot about this band until just now. But this is a song that stuck with me. Because just fucking listen to it. It rules. Just more shred. To say nothing of the fact that I relate to the lyrics, but that's an issue for another time. So yeah. Needless to say, this was pretty hard, but again, I was an expert player. I did clear the game on expert at my peak. So I guess I just liked the game that much. Had something to prove. Compare that to when I went on a nostalgia trip a couple of years ago, tried to play the game. Failed out of Mother by Danzig. Second song in the game on the PS2 version. Age is a harsh mistress. Yeah, I never had a chance actually covering this. Like, that was not necessarily. Oh shit, I haven't changed songs in quite a bit. Yeah, this is precisely why Corpse had a capture of the actual window there when she did it herself, but I couldn't figure out how to do it without it making it look small as a motherfuck. So, yeah, my mistake. So, for those of you joining late, we did not just listen to Air Supply 3 times over. The previous songs were all from video games. Fountain of Dreams from Melee, What I Made Up from Sonic, and then Firefield from Smash Bros. Brawl. And now we're up to date. Yeah, I love the more melodic parts of the song, by the way. I love it when punk-ish bands aren't afraid to actually seem like they know what they're doing musically. Actually going for some melody. Then again, I can just say that about music in general. Even in there's a reason I prefer more melodic forms of metal, as opposed to just sheer, stupid brutality. Alright, now to get ahead of the game. Next song. Yes, this song again. And I am going to tell the story again because I'm going to hold that over my mother until the end of time. The fact that I said, before Guitar Hero 3 came out, this would be an amazing Guitar Hero song. She said, but it's Guitar Hero, what would a violin song be doing there? And then this happened and I just got the smuggest fucking face ever. I just knew what I was talking about at the time. So, another thing I forgot to mention, when I did this properly on Corpse's stream is that, there's actually a funny, viral video that this was part of. Sort of. It's obscure, but, it's funny. Just a moment, who here is familiar with, damn it, that's not him. There we go. So who here is familiar with Nick Ben Fanning? Heck yeah. For those of you who are not familiar with him, allow me to enlighten you. I learned of him through a different, video of his that used the Tom Morello guitar battle from this very game, but this was the only time it was going to be relevant. So, yes. He's a rather silly man. He makes dances. Well, quote-unquote dance videos. It's mostly just him and his friend goofing off with a bunch of jump cuts. And as somebody who's sworn at resolve enough to know that it can be a pain in the ass doing that sort of thing, I have a lot of respect for him. But, yes. Those videos. A bit of a hoot, as I would call them. And yes, solos, bunch of solos. And like I said, that reminds me, I should also share this while I'm at it. I mentioned this at the CyTube, but I didn't get the chance to actually link to it. So, I'll share the first video, and the rest you can just look up on your own time. So, Steve we met himself a couple of years ago actually released like a proper guitar tutorial on how to play this very song. And it really puts into perspective the amount of work he put into arranging it, and how fucking crazy the solos are in this song. Like, you know, you're in some shit when he actually admits himself, yeah, the solo was hard as fuck. Like, literally every single solo you're hearing right now, he says, they're all insanely hard. Then again, that's slightly self-evident. This is Guitar Hero we're talking about. I'll stop talking momentarily and just let you listen. Alright, so we're getting close to the next thing that I have a remark about. Wait for it. Still not this, just wait for it. Not even this. Almost there. This, right here. This solo. So, if you're listening to that and wondering, how the hell did he play that? I wondered the same thing, and there's actually a trick to that. He used a capo at the 12th fret to play that particular lick. It is completely impossible to play any other way, or else it would be incredibly hard. Leaning towards impossible, which is what you would expect. He's playing that solo as if Satan himself played it. So yeah, that's the most interesting one, because that's a lot of the reason I'm glad I watched that tutorial video, because I would never have figured out how he did that otherwise. That's also called a pedal point solo, by the way. Like Holy Orders is on this playlist, so you'll hear that later. That is another example of a pedal point melody. And now we round out the Guitar Hero era with another song you remember. Granted, this version of the song wasn't in Guitar Hero, it was the original, but still included it anyways, just because I like this version. I just find this whole album to be somewhat underrated. And I would like to also humbly request F's in chat for Michael Kamen again, please. The gentleman conducting the orchestra, who also wrote the entire orchestration to this live album. Incredible talent that man had. So, another piece of trivia I didn't have time to mention back in the CyTube. There's actually a reason this collab came about. This wasn't as batshit random as a lot of people think. And I just realized I should probably, there we go. That name got me in a lot of trouble when I was listening to it as a teenager. People would keep laughing at me when I brought it up, and I kept wondering, what the hell are they laughing at? Completely missed the innuendo. I was an innocent little boy. Anyways, the trivia I was about to mention. So, the reason Metallica met Michael Kamen in the first place is because this was far from their first collaboration with him. Their big hit, Nothing Else Matters, from the Black Album. Did you know that that actually has an orchestral element itself? You would be excused if you didn't know that, because they mixed that really low. It's very quiet in the mix of that song. To the point that the B-side of the single was an alternate version of the song that was an acoustic guitar that was mostly an excuse to just actually show off the orchestration that they wrote. It's called Nothing Else Matters Elevator version if you would like to look it up on your own time. I personally really like it. Lives up to its name, though. Very gentle. If you thought it didn't fit the Metallica catalog before, that version is something else. So yes, that's how much I like Michael Kamen. He wrote the orchestration to that song. Just to give it a more cinematic edge, I guess. I don't recall why they did it. Maybe it was Bob Rock's influence, but either way, that's how he got his foot in the Metallica door. And that's why the song you're listening to from the concert this came from ended up happening. So on a less say-so note, if you're paying attention to the crowd in the song. Actually, before I point that out, this is something I don't like about this version of the song. They skip over the bridge, the dun 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 dun. I love that part of the song, but they just, in the 90s, up until like their Saint Anger tour, they just left it out of the song whenever they played it. That irritated me to no end, because that's an amazing part of the song. And just imagine how it would have sounded with orchestral backing. Anyways. So, what I was about to point out was that if you pay attention to shots where they're behind the band and they're showing the crowd, you may notice a certain woman in a red shirt. You're not going to see much of her. They don't focus on her much this late in the show, for the reason that if you look at the Master of Puppets video from this concert, they put a lot more focus on her. But only for that song. Because what I think happened was that they were filming, they were doing cinematography, and then they realized that woman is at the front and center of the stage in crowd shots. Slight problem though, she was very obviously not wearing a bra that night. Which, considering she was very clearly enjoying the show, made for some rather not exactly family-friendly viewing. Not that Metallica was known for being child-friendly live anyways, but I think even they drew the line there. Again, you don't have to take my word for it. The footage is out there, if you really want to listen to it. Or watch it, I suppose. Like, she's most visible, if you really need to see it, she's most visible at, right before the climactic guitar solo after the clean bridge. When he says, "Fix me!" That's when she's at her most obvious. That's strange. Never mind. I forgot most of my additions were later on the playlist. So yes, epic ending of the concert. They closed the concert with this. That's why the ending was such a to-do. Granted, this was not in Metallica every song they ended this way, but they restrained themselves a bit more in this particular show. Because again, you can't really do big rock endings with an orchestra. They need constant direction. And now, Mortal Kombat again. Again, we're phasing into the edgy, grown-up phase, where I got into gore, violence, offensive media in general. Whoops. I don't know why I bothered. The song is incredibly short. I'm gonna have to change this in a minute anyways. But, yes. So yeah, edgelord phase. And this is a really short song, so I don't really have time to talk about it much. That said, I will tell you, my second favorite song from the Mortal Kombat series was actually from Mortal Kombat Armageddon, the Bell Tower stage. You would think it was the Hell stage, and I honestly like that song too, but again, the Bell Tower is the one. Which has an interesting story behind it. It's technically unfinished. Well, it's finished, but it's unfinished. So basically what happened was they wrote the percussion part for the song, what was intended to just be the percussion, and they were like, man, you know what? This actually sounds good as it is. We don't need to add anything else. We'll just play it like this in the game. And thus, a technically unfinished song made it into a finished game. Not that you would know that, unless they admitted it, which they did. But the song sounds amazing. They made the right call. That percussion track really was all it needed. So, no harm done, I guess. And now we come to another addition to the list. So yes, I name-dropped this gentleman on the proper stream. And now you get to actually listen to him. In hindsight, I probably should have put this on the actual playlist instead of the Jedi Mind Tricks track, but it's what it is. The reason I say that is because this was the horrorcore rapper I was first introduced to. Because there was a girl I was sort of friends with in high school, and she would not shut up about how much she loved Necro. Which is funny because the woman in question was a self-admitted hippie. I'll let that sink in for a moment. A hippie chick who loved Necro. So yeah, you thought Heavy Metal Kings was offensive? Yeah. I love that Rosie O'Donnell line. That's fucking hilarious. But now, listen to this line. Listen to this line. Whoops. Mistimed it. Anyways, he quotes a Metallica song in this rap. At some point. Okay, now. Yep. So yeah. It's very obvious why I don't listen to rap much if you know my usual tastes, but that's also precisely why I like horrorcore. Significantly more in my usual wheelhouse compared to the, usually. I'm pretty sure that line is also a reference to a song, but I don't recall off the top of my head. But yes, so yeah, metal and rap have a lot more crossover than one would think. Besides these two acts, there are indeed rappers who sample metal songs straight up. I probably could have included some more examples of that, but again, only so much time I have. Can only keep it for so long, you know? I will give you another. I'll give you another example of Necro's work at least. If you want to. Oh, hey, it's a good example of a metal sample too. He has a song called "Sorcerers of Death's Destruction." Sorcerers of Death's Construction. Sorcerers of Death's Construction. That's the one. Straight up samples the first verse of Black Sabbath's War Pigs, as you may have guessed from the title. Very classic song he's sampling there. War Pigs was is actually one of my favorite Sabbath songs. Probably another reason I love metal so much. That song stuck with me. Let's see. I'm just gonna go ahead and get up for a moment. I'll let the playlist play for a moment. So, I'll be back in a moment. Just bear with me a moment. Alright, made it back just in time for the next song. Sweet. Alright, so edit this. Yep, here we go. This song again. I still find it sort of flattering that, Corpse ended up saying that this was the most intense, song that anybody had ever brought to one of our CyTube streams. That's, something of a badge of honor for me, if I'm being honest. As much as gauche as it feels to have ended up doing that. Just a funny little anecdote. But like I told her, this is not even the depths of, not even the true depths of the offensive content I, consumed. But again, this was about as offensive as I was willing to get without, like, some of the songs I listened to, bands I listened to, groups I listened to during this phase, I would be scared to even allude to those acts on a Twitch stream, simply because they are just that offensive. So yeah, to this day, I have to hide it quite a bit more, just because of the way society's progressed since those days, so I will admit though, I do have a very, arguably bad sense of humor. I do like just stupid, juvenile, offensive shit in general. But obviously I can't really, share much of that these days. To say nothing of the fact that a lot of people just don't tend to like that anymore. They've, grown up, so to speak. So yeah, just, appreciate me showing this side of me while it lasts, because, this is the only time it will come up, probably. I just realized, I wonder what, Strategos Oceanus would think of me, adding these last two songs to the playlist. Because, I attended, a couple of months ago, I attended, one of his DJ streams. Let me just go ahead and shout him out, as a matter of fact. Please tell me I spelled that right. Yes, that's him. Strategos Oceanus. So, for those of you who don't know him, he is a DJ. He does weekly DJ streams every Friday night. And they are very nice. I attended the one he did that was themed after 90s rap. Just because, outside of horrorcore, that's the rap era that I tend to like most. And I came this close to actually adding a song he showed me to the playlist, just because I liked it that much. But I couldn't find a way to shoehorn it in. I didn't know about it at the time, and it wouldn't have made sense very late in the playlist, so I just ended up leaving it off. The song in question, if you're curious, is Tear Da Club Up by 3-6 Mafia. I fucking love that song. It's beat, but mostly for its beat. Just, the sort of beats I tend to like. The sort of melodic, epic sort of ones. Much like this one. Alright. And I'm just going to go ahead and get real ahead of the game, because we are transitioning back to music you would expect from me a little more. There we go. So yeah, you probably recognize this game. I mean, this song. This was on the original list. And again, I do find it really sad what happened to this band, but no helping it. Because I did mention that they fired the singer of this song and changed styles shortly after this video, but apparently the reason for that was because the singer in question was a raging alcoholic. Like Dave Mustaine in the 80s level of raging alcoholic. So if that's the case, no wonder they kicked him out of the band. But again, that was a double-edged sword, because again, they don't make music like this anymore. They just make straight black metal, as opposed to this great black thrash idea. It's unfortunate, but what's done is done. It's an extra pity because he actually has an amazing vocal delivery. I do like high growls quite a lot. It's all about the deep grumbles, if you ask me. Good highs can add to the atmosphere too. They can sound heavy too. Just gotta know how to do them right. This is my second favorite part of the song. This is my third favorite. Yeah, it's sort of ridiculous to break down a song that's only like 2 minutes long, but it is what it is. And now this right here is my true favorite part of the song. This halftime section. Ugh, fucking crushing. And rare solo from them. They don't actually do guitar solos that often. But they don't need to. The songs usually sound fine without them. They can do melodies without solos. And now for this band's basically diametric opposite. If I can type in the box. A song about Loki, by the way. In case you couldn't tell by the song title. Because again, this is a monomorph's gimmick. They do sing about Vikings and Norse mythology. Which is ironic considering that the name is actually from the Lord of the Rings. This is apparently another language of Mount Doom. And, yes, I actually have the CD of this too, actually. One of the very few I own. Because, I think I mentioned the show, I already mentioned the show where all three of the bands I'm about to play all played on the same night, but, I don't think I got the chance to mention another show I went to that I traveled cross-country to see. Big one-day metal festival, and had Iron Maiden, Megadeth on the bill, Testament, Overkill, Anthrax, I believe. But, fun fact, I was actually mostly there for Sabaton, the band of the next song. Simply because at the time I had never seen them live before, and I insisted on it. Ah, no shit. I've actually never seen Ailstorm live. I enjoy that band quite a bit. And from what I gather, they're a pretty decent live band themselves. As you'd expect, they are rather bubbly and fun. Which reminds me of this stupid thing where, how Ailstorm has the song Mexico. If I ever do karaoke, I want to sing that specifically to piss off Papa Calavera. I just want to see his reaction to that. He will either be really pissed off or really amused. Not much in between there. Probably amused knowing him, but I'll never know until I do it. So I look forward to that, I guess. But back to the subject of Amon Amarth. So yeah, unlike Skeleton, which what I was just talking about, this band has stayed completely consistent. To the point that they get compared to Motorhead and AC/DC. All their albums sound the same, as a dickweed critic would put it. But hey, if it ain't broke and you're still making great songs in the same style, why fix it? Well, quote-unquote fix it. Changing styles apropos of nothing is how you get stupid albums, usually. Albums that people prefer to forget. Sometimes it works out, but most of the times, not so much. So, this is actually not the song that introduced me to Amon Amarth. It was actually Twilight of the Thunder God. As you would expect, that's basically their big hit. And it was also included in Guitar Hero. Big surprise. Which reminds me, maybe I should have put Death Clock on this playlist too. They were basically my introduction to melodic death metal. They're the reason I sort of grew into Amon Amarth and another band that you'll see at the very end of this playlist. They just shaped my taste in death metal as it was. Melodic death metal. Swedish death metal, as some people will call it. Also, apparently this music video is all footage from a movie that Amon Amarth's singer, Johan Hegg, actually played a character in. I believe they said the title of it at the very beginning of the video. Northmen, I think. I can't speak to its quality, but it does make good music video backing. Can't be worse than that one Nightwish video that has Uwe Boll's Alone in the Dark as its backing. That band caught a bad break there. And now, here we go. Enter. People really lost their shit when I added this to the playlist. When this came on. That said, apparently in this version of the list, I elected for the studio version. Oh, now I remember the reason. Because this one includes a translation of the lyrics. Because this song was in Swedish. That was the gimmick of this album. It was based on Swedish history, so they sang it both in Swedish and English. And this is the Swedish version, but the gentleman who made this video translated the Swedish lyrics to English. So, like I stated, this version of the song is War is Hell, the song. The English version is more specifically about the 30 Years' War. I'm gonna shut up so you can hear this. That's correct, Gale. Again, it's an album about Swedish history, so of course, like, it would have made sense to have one or two songs in Swedish, but again, they recorded the entire album twice with two different sets of lyrics. But, like in a lot of cases of translation, sometimes the song is just completely different between versions, and this is the most triumphant example of that. Again, I prefer this version, even if I need to see the translation to understand it. Because once you do understand it, I honestly think it's a lot more powerful. More intimate in a good way. I like it that way. Just a moment. Sorry, I got lost in the moment. The song just touches my heart in ways I can't quite articulate. Makes me cry in a good way. I'm holding it together better than usual, but believe me, the song usually makes me misty-eyed if I'm listening to it alone. But, on a lighter note, have I mentioned how amazing of a live act Sabaton is? So, my first time seeing them was at the festival I just mentioned, and, I remember, nobody else was really into them. They were there for the thrashier bands. I was basically the only guy in my section standing up, headbanging, singing along to every song. That was a funny experience. But it only made it all sweeter when, about a year later, they actually came to a more local area. They had a concert much closer to me. I actually got to see it, which is the show I was talking about earlier, where they played with Skeleton Witch and the Monomarth. And I made a point of going to the front to see that band. And they made it worth my while. They made sure to give me plenty of attention. They saw me singing along and clearly appreciated it. That was an amazing experience. Absolutely loved it. God, I would give anything to watch them again. Goddamn Rona, man. And now for the big fade out. So usually I don't like song fade outs, but I think this usage of it fits. Because again, it's not really supposed to be dying in war is sort of a slow process a lot of the time. Like, sometimes you get lucky and you get a headshot and you just die right there, but other times you're not so lucky. And thus closes the metal development. So now, back to the fighting games. The fighting games again. So yes, I really could have picked anything from this particular soundtrack, because, like I said back in the CyTube, this was what got me into Street Fighter, and it's just a classic OST in any form. It has lasted the test of time for good reason, which is funny because, fun fact, Yoko Shimomura, who wrote the song and a lot of the rest of the soundtrack, she apparently intended these to be comical songs, funny songs, goofy songs. So, the fact that everybody thinks they're badass, perfect for fighting, blindsided her. Task failed successfully. Which brings me to another anecdote that I'm probably not going to get a better opportunity to bring up. My other favorite thing about Yoko Shimomura. She has an anecdote about Blanca's theme in particular. She wrote out the rest of the song, the bass, the drums, everything, but could not come up with a main melody. Until one day she was running the train to work, and apparently at the time Japanese trains played little songs to make sure you can board now, or you can disembark now. And apparently the jingle that day, the particular station she was at, the jingle went, do-do-do-do-do. And she was like, that's it. That's Blanca's melody. So she basically spent the entire train ride to work just drilling it into her head. Da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-dum. Just singing it to herself the whole way there. Because again, this was the early 90s. Tape recorders were not easy to come by. Welcome to the stream, Moody Presence. Good to see you. So, yeah. Just in time. You're just in time for the fighting game portion. So, like I was saying, I go back to that story every time. I just love telling that story, because again, I had no idea how to write melodies until I heard that anecdote. Because that's a secret. You can get good melody ideas from anywhere. Listening to somebody speak. In the classical world, they used to imitate bird calls. Like, I remember this one time, this buddy of mine who wanted to start a band in high school. Like, there was a phone that, like, got dislodged from a hook, and it did, like, a do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And we were like, oh, hey, that'd be cool to incorporate into a song. Just silly shit like that. Anyways, new edition. Motherfucking Noontide. Love the song for obvious reason. I could have added anything from Execs, because, Accent Core Plus was actually the first, game I played out of the Guilds of Gear series. Hell of an introduction, I know. And no, not Accent Core, not Accent Core Plus, or Accent Core Plus. Which I get is random, but it's just what was the latest game at the time. Like, this was at least 2 years before Plus R was even a thing. Like, everybody thought Guilds of Gear was dead. Everybody thought that BlazBlue was going to be the replacement. What a horrible timeline that would have been. Nothing against BlazBlue, but Guilds of Gear, man. I really could have, I don't know if I said this in regards to Guilds of Gear, but I could honestly have just made this CyTube nothing but Guilds of Gear and BlazBlue songs, and it would have been just as accurate. I basically worship Daisuke like a god. He is one of my main influences as far as songwriting, arranging, just all that shit. He is just what I aspire to be in a musician. And as a creative type as well, because you may or may not know this already, but he was not just responsible for the music. He also is responsible for the art direction. He writes the story. All that's that shit. So, basically imagine Tommy Wiseau in the room, except the dude was actually talented. That's Daisuke Shiwatari. That's the easiest way I can put it. Usually we call those Renaissance men, if they're actually good at what they do. And that's Daisuke. Renaissance man to a T. So yeah, in hindsight, there's probably one thing I could have done differently. I probably should have added at least one song from Strive. But, spoilers, I did not. Just slipped my mind. Then again, it's the newest game. You've probably all heard those songs. I'm just sort of assuming everybody's getting sort of sick of them. They want to go back to the Exard era. Or, the Execs era. So yeah, here's a geeky fact for you. It's pronounced Execs, not X2. So yeah, arguably way too late to do that, but yes. That's fair. Daisuke did clearly evolve in between. There's a lot more variety in that soundtrack, but a lot of people will just say Execs is their favorite song. Favorite of the series. Probably a nostalgia thing. That's the first installment a lot of people played. And now for something that was on the original CyTube. Typing in the title of this game again makes me... Okay, so sorry to potentially bring the mood down, but goddamn, I miss Rocco Roland. I can't think of Guilty Gear 2 Overture without thinking of watching him try to play that game. Sort of taking one for the team there, making me realize, oh hey, I have that in my Steam library. It should stay in my Steam library, unfucking touched. Ugh. We miss you, Rocco. Thank you again for sparing me a painful experience. But yeah, like every other strange Guilty Gear spin-off, the soundtrack was nothing but bangers, just like usual. Good question. Maybe there wasn't supposed to be a return at all. Maybe he was just fucking with us when he posted on April Fool's Day. Then again, that's happened to me before. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ross Scott of Freeman's Mind fame. As he decided to upload the very first episode of Freeman's Mind 2 on April Fool's Day. And it was not a joke, it was the actual first episode. So everybody thought the joke was going to be like, oh, okay, this is a one-off, he's never going to return to this concept. But no, he just kept the series going until the coronavirus happened and he had to put the series on hiatus because everybody was home. Apparently, Rocco did not take from that playbook. Dude brought our hopes up. But anyways, there was another tangent I was about to go on last song. So back on the subject of BlazBlue. I really should have added that to the playlist, but I didn't. Especially considering there's an aspect of its music that I think is very underrated. So the music was all composed by Daisuke, and for the most part, it was arranged by him and his usual team as well. But in the second half of the series, Chrono Phantasma and Central Fiction, the songs from the characters for the first two games were rearranged by a gentleman by the name of Yuki from Galnarius. A lot of people don't like his rearrangements, but I personally fucking love them. I think they're amazing. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only person who feels that way. Like, whether they're better or worse than the original is definitely subject to debate, and in a lot of cases I would agree. Daisuke's originals are the better ones, but there are some that I honestly think Yuki did it better. Like, my main example with that would probably be Under Heaven Destruction, which is no mean feat because the original version of that song is a fucking classic. It's a beautiful song. And yet Yuki still made it his own. Like, I almost consider that a Yuki song in a lot of ways. As blasphemous as it may be to say. Although, speaking of covers, I might as well share this. I didn't add it to the playlist, but I'm going to share with you another version of Holy Orders that was not an official game. So, in hindsight, I probably should have added these guys to the playlist too, but this is Power Glove and their arrangement of Holy Orders. Absolute classic band, if you ask me. They were one of the pioneers of covering video game music. And in a lot of ways, I still take after them. Their arrangement sense has stuck with me in a lot of ways. I just love that band. And I'm glad that they're still around. I highly recommend their Killer Instinct arrangement, too. That's a great one. But enough about fighting games. I think it's time to go, the next step of weebiness. Because sure, we went to Anime Fighters, how about straight up anime? And we're going to start with a song that was not on the original playlist. I really wish I had easier access to the proper Greek Mew character. You know what, I'm going to be extra about it, and I'm going to pray it's part of the font. So yeah, like I said, back at the CyTube, this may seem left field because it is. Oh sweet, it does show up in that font. But at any rate, so this is from a phase, there was a previous hobby of mine. I was into a anime mobile game that I will not name. I refuse to name it. It's a piece of shit and I don't want anybody playing it. However, I made a friend through that game, who was a complete freak for idols. They loved everything idol. IMAS, Princess Connect, this, obviously. They got me into Bondori as well, which I'll see in a bit. Spoilers. So, yes, that did somewhat stick with me. And it certainly prepared me for this niche, VTubers, where idol culture does rule the roost in some areas of it. Not so much this scene here, but in the bigger areas, definitely. So, not to be too much of a downer, but I'm not going to get a better chance to bring this up. I'll be lovely, guys. I have mixed opinions on idol culture in general. That said, I think Love Live is probably the best balance of it. Like, they're just characters. They're fictional characters, so they don't have to deal with a lot of the bullshit that real idols have to deal with. Which I find better. I don't like the idea of putting an actual woman through that. Unless they consent to it, obviously. Like, if they want to do that, then obviously that's their prerogative. It's just forcing them to do it that I have some compunctions about. That came out a bit more fedora tippery than I realized, but I don't know what you want me to say. It's my honest opinion. But yeah, bottom line. The music is still good in a lot of ways, as you would expect for what's usually a music-based project. That said, obviously, when I was in this hobby, I did gravitate towards the songs that were a bit more in my usual wheelhouse. Pardon the water pouring, I'm just really thirsty. So, yeah, this and the next song, which, spoilers, was something you heard already in the Corpse CyTube. I just love the idea of juxtaposing, like, they're not on the playlist, but I guess most people's first exposure to this idea would probably be, baby metal, right? Like, that's your first idea when you think what happens when J-pop and metal cross over, but no, it's, it doesn't have to be quite that feeling. Like, they can meet halfway a little more, and that's what I like about this and the next song. They fit a little more as metal tunes. It's not just goofy, cheesy J-pop that just happens to be back from a metal band. It's really more like a metal song that happens to be sung by cute Japanese girls. I fucking love that idea. I think it's great. And I can totally dig if more, I would totally dig more songs like it. Which is good because they're getting made. It's just a plain good idea. Like, female-fronted metal is great in general, but they tend to focus more on the operatic, epic sort of idea. I think there's potential in just having a normal, cute sort of girl fronting it. But that's just, like, my opinion, man. And here we go again. This is my personal favorite Love Live song, period. Which you may have guessed by the fact that I actually added it to the official short playlist. And that's my reasoning. I fucking love the song. It's my favorite one out of the franchise. Not that I'm one to talk. Muse and Accords are basically the extent of my knowledge about it. I fell out of Love Live right around the time Nijigasaki was just getting started, and apparently there's 2 new franchises after that, and don't ask me about that because I don't fucking know. Just complete alien to me. They're probably fine for what they are, but that train sort of left the station. To say nothing of the fact that I'm too busy to commit to any new franchises at the moment, really. This shit right here, this takes up enough of my time. Although that is a pretty good segue, because I'll let you guys in a little, semi-secret. One of my goals, when I get enough clout to actually convince people to sing with me, I want to cover one of these songs, or failing that, just write my own, and just have a big-ass singing group just sing with it. Because again, metal song that just happens to have cute girls singing it. I love that concept. Ergo, I want to fucking do it myself. I don't know when or if I'll be able to make that happen, but if I do make it happen, all the better. That would fucking kick ass. I would love it. It'd be fun. Great idea. Because sure, I have experience just collabing general streams, organizing general collab streams. Music collabs is another world entirely, though. Something a bit harder to parse. A little more effort, a little more direction required. I don't know if I'd be able to pull it off, but I could certainly try. Yeah, and especially lyrically, like, these are basically power metal lyrics right here. It fits, again, meeting halfway. That said, there are indeed a couple of songs that are literal, like, there's this one song from Muse. More specifically, it was a subunit of Nico, Hanago, and Rin, I believe. And it's a literal fucking baby metal song. Like a baby metal that songs about fucking eating chocolate. It's really pretty much that warehouse. It's pretty much just them eating snacks after school. After School Navigators, that was the one. How could I forget that name? Silly me. Shit happens, I guess. So, yeah. Nice solo for just an idle pop song, huh? And I love this quiet section, too. That should be a little more readable, right? So yeah, pardon the silence for a moment, but, yeah. Alright, so we're just gonna go ahead and move on to the next song. Just because, just a moment of silence. So, another shit. Okay, it's not letting me skip. Whatever, fine, we'll let it play out. Or no, I can just delete it. There we go. Now for the next song. I love this song. So again, this is Bondary. So, this is by one of the 6 bands in Bondary. Specifically, this one is Roselia, not to be confused with the Pokemon. They're basically sort of a goth idea. Kind of sort of visual K. They're basically the edgy band. Not that that's saying much. 3 of the other 6 bands have some pretty hard rockers themselves, but it's, again, this is the band you can rely on for that sort of thing. So, yeah, Roselia honestly has some amazing songs themselves. I could have chosen a lot of them. They were the band that resonated with me the most when I played Bondary. And yes, I played the mobile game. I didn't watch the anime or anything. The only idol anime I ever watched was, I watched the series of, Muse, School Idol Project. Both seasons of that and the movie, but, I never got around to Sunshine. Just, I ended up moving on before that happened. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point, but, I doubt it at this point. So, one of Bondary's gimmicks is that they don't just do original songs. Every band also does covers. And, Roselia has some amazing covers themselves. If you want a recommendation from me, my recommendations would be, they did the Evangelion opening, Cruel Angel's Thesis. They also did, the Black Lagoon opening, whose name I forget. It's a great song, though. Great cover, too. And, they did one more cover that I thought was great, but I forgot off the top of my head. So, if I don't remember it, then just stick to those 2 recommendations. Cruel Angel's Thesis and, Black Lagoon opening, whose name I forget. Damn, I'm forgetting shit all over the place. So, I'm going to take this opportunity to spoil the rest of the playlist. There was only one more song left that was on the original list. Everything else from here on is going to be brand new. By a certain definition of new. Stuff that I didn't play the first time, I'll put it that way. I love that drum solo. Which brings me to a random anecdote. The drummer for this, the character who drummed for this particular band, Akko, I believe her name was, she was one of my favorite characters. For the same reason that Johanna was my best Love Live girl. I had a type when I was into these games. I loved chuny girls. Love that shit. Just because it's an archetype I have a lot of love for in general. Maybe because I relate. Being a metalhead basically is like being an adult chunibyo. Like, I'm the sort of person who would actually play along with their, what they're doing. Just because it's funny. And fun. And would probably make them happy somewhere deep down. So now we transition to a phase that I actually didn't get to talk about much in the CyTube. I'm not going to spoil it yet. I'm just going to let the first few notes play, and then I'll leave it as a surprise. Enter. So yes, time to admit it. I sort of alluded to this back when I name-dropped Power Glove, back when Holy Orders was playing, but when I was younger, I was an absolute freak for video game covers. Mostly metal, obviously, but there was a whole scene of these people. Presumably still is. A lot of them are still active from what I gather. So, yeah, back in the early 2010s or so, this was a big thing. People were covering video game music in their bedrooms. Bunch of young people just giving their own take on video game music. I loved this shit. There was a bunch of them. Jules is one of them. But again, much like Guilty Gear, this is something I could dedicate an entire CyTube to in and of itself. Simply because there were a lot of these people and a lot of arrangements I loved. But, spoilers, there's only a couple of these. So if you want some recommendations for who to look up, there's probably, besides Family Jewels, I would probably say Little V. Mills is probably the second biggest one. He, does some pretty damn good work himself. Who else? If you want somebody who isn't strictly metal, string player gamer, that's an amazing dude. Also a Twitch streamer. I saw him on the front page not too long ago. That's a pretty big achievement for him. Great orchestral arranger. He's part of the reason I wanted to get into, well, besides Fountain of Dreams being one of my big childhood songs, he was a lot of the reason I decided to get into it. Wanted to get into a proper orchestral arrangement. Though it's not fair, because back in the Philippines, where he originated from, he was actually a film composer. So he knew what he was doing on that before even touching video games. Like, again, you see Jules here, a lot of people from the scene he was a big part of, they were literal bedroom guitarists, just kids or young adults just sort of breaking out their guitars and just screwing around. But no, String Player Gamer was a genuine professional. But yeah, back to Jules. So, he was the first of these. He was the first of the scene that I ended up discovering. Just an absolute... I sort of related to him in a lot of ways, because he's not much older than me, and obviously wasn't back at the time. Like, I just saw this and I was like, holy shit, I could do that. I could just head into a fucking Guitar Center, just grab something and just make something of myself. Make actual fucking music. Wouldn't that be the tops? Unfortunately, it didn't end up quite working that way. Took me many, many years until I had the time to write music myself. And of course, by the time that happened, music copyright fucking happened. Half of these fucking video game companies would copyright claim you for trying to do something like this, unless you went through DistroKid or something, trying to get the proper, legitimate rights. Granted, I still, spoilers, I plan on doing something like that later on down the line, just because I really... Like, this actually came up on the CyTube, that why haven't I done covers yet? In a lot of ways, I should be doing covers, and part of me wants to, but again, music copyright. But I gotta start a DistroKid or some shit first. But saying it out loud, I think I really do want to make it happen now. Although, I suppose it's time for a bit of admittance. A lot of the songs in this medley I actually mostly knew through Smash Brothers, with the exception of the Metal Gear theme. Funny story about that. That was embroiled in a plagiarism controversy a long time ago. So if you're wondering why you don't hear much of that song anymore, it's because it was allegedly ripped off from a Russian classical piece, and they were not happy when they figured it out. The writers of the original piece. Konami neither, obviously. Because this is back when they had principles. This is, they didn't want the biggest song of their biggest franchise to be fucking plagiarized. Then again, maybe it's not scruples. Maybe that's just them not wanting to get sued. And this right here, this song is basically Jules' bread and butter right here. This is basically his Fountain of Dreams melee for me. The song that stuck with him. I don't know how many times he's covered this. He covered it at least twice in this particular era. The first year of him doing this. Simply because it was what he wanted to do. It was the song that stuck with him the most. And I will admit, he turned me on to the song too. It turned out to actually be a really good song. Even if I still don't really have that much interest in Kingdom Hearts. Nobody tell Carmine I said that. So a lot of the reason I included this particular cover of his in the playlist is because at the very end of this medley, he does something absolutely amazing. I'm just going to let him play it and then I'll talk about it in a moment. I'm not surprised you think that. It's apparently a very controversial series in a lot of ways. People either love it or hate it. Probably depends on whether you grew up on it or not. Anyways, here's the thing he does. Yes. It's a medley within a medley. This fucking blew my mind when I heard this the first time. I was like, holy shit, you can do that? And apparently you can. Here he is doing it right now. Like, I thought this was the most big brain shit ever in the when I first heard it. Like, ending a medley by sort of doing a medley within a medley. I fucking love that part. That's why this medley here has stuck with me for over a decade. That just never gets old to me. I fucking love it. So, staying on the subject of metal video game covers, we're going into the next song. So, we got any FromSoft fans in the house? I would assume a whole hell of a lot. So, Witness. My third favorite video game metal cover, dude. Richard E.B. I followed this dude really early into his career because he was influenced by Family Jewels as well. A lot of people were, because again, Jules was the sort of trailblazer of this sort of idea. Like, sure, there was Power Glove and Metroid Metal before him, but those were almost studio projects. Like, they didn't really make videos out of it. They pretty much only did the music. And yeah, there's a Slaughter Scott dude. That's dead. But, yes. So, yeah. Richard's bread and butter is that, oh, yeah. Well, E-Rock came way later, but, he's pretty good, too. I don't know who exactly influenced him, but, sort of a different idea. Not quite the same, origin as, Jules or, Richard or, anybody else we're talking about right now. But yeah, I loved this video when it first came out, because filming at a church, that's actually one of my goals as a musician. Well, yeah, there's no what about it. Just, I want to film a music video in a church eventually. They're just such great backgrounds for music. Even if you're not a strictly Christian rock dude. As long as you're not, one of those guys who wants to film yourself playing a satanic song just to be an edgelord. Granted, this is not exactly the sort of, this isn't exactly a holy song in and of itself. I believe this is a Bloodborne track. Again, I'm not a FromSoft guy. I'm a scrub. I don't, see, my problem with FromSoft is that I don't like slow combat. Or at least I thought I didn't. I've gotten pretty sick of going unga bunga in any of my fighters, so maybe I'll have to reevaluate them at some point. People swear by those games, there's gotta be a reason for it, right? That said, I would probably start with Dark Souls 1, if any of them. If for no other reason, then Elden Ring would probably fucking melt my computer. I'm not using a top-of-the-line computer setup here. Anyways, big surprise coming up in a moment. Enter my favorite video game composer, bedroom musician, Toxic X motherfucking Eternity. I love this dude. He was my favorite back when I listened to this. I cannot recommend him enough. Go listen to him when you're done with this. Toxic X Eternity. Love that dude. And even better, he was, had the most agreeable personality out of any of these guys, too. Like, most of them were nice, but, like, he went above and beyond. He was just great. I love him. Especially Toxic X Eternity. Look up his fucking, Aquatic Ambience cover. That is an absolute classic. I cannot recommend that one enough. Go listen to that one after this. And if you want a recommendation for further watching for Richard, I would have to recommend probably any of his Undertale tunes. He got it on the ground floor of that. So yeah, I can recommend that pretty highly. Made an entire album for them. And that's into that. And now, for the last song that was familiar to you all, SS Goddamn H. And probably the musician that I'm the closest to in the modern day. Because again, this is all sample metal. This is all just plugins, all digital all the time. Yes, indeed. I'm not fucking around, this is all samples. So yeah, SSH is probably better known for his Guilty Gear rearrangements, but a lot of people would say that this is his masterpiece, and I'm inclined to agree. Just an amazing song, just true showcase of his arrangement skills. Which makes me feel like a fool, because apparently he also did a really, that Metal Force cover, that Thunder Force cover. I never knew about that until very recently, when I heard it on Koopa's stream. When she was using it as background music. Probably would have blown my mind back in the day, but, bygones are bygones. Better I listen to it later than never. Alright, I need to get out momentarily, so, please pardon me a moment. I'll let you listen to SSH do his thing. Pardon me a moment. Alright, very sorry about that. I'm back. Again. I felt like it was a good time. It's a long song, and it was a good opportunity to let SSH show what it was about. Absolute king. Great musician in general. So, yeah. That's, something else I forgot to mention earlier. Medleys were the hot thing to do in the, cover scene I talked about. Just because a lot of, people were just that extra. They just wanted to show how great of a musician they were. Some of them even went the extra mile and, changed the keys just to make everything consistent. Also, I still love this fucking Trooper reference. Again, fuck Iron Maiden, fuck their, old way of protecting their copyright, but they still make good music, though. I just no longer feel bad about listening to it for free. I will never forgive them for the Ion Maiden lawsuit. Ion Fury now. That was ridiculous. Like, people joke about Metallica doing stupid lawsuits, but that was next level fucking dickery. But yeah, back on subject. This song in particular, this arrangement of, whatever song this is my favorite part of the medley right here. Just something about the key it's in, the way it's arranged. It's just amazing. I love it. It sounds beautiful to me. True that. True that. Come to think of it, I bet if SSH released this, if SSH were in operation today, and tried this exact same thing, I bet Konami wouldn't be too happy with him either. But who's to say? This is well over 10 years old at this point, so who gives a fuck? Closer to 15 if I recall correctly. Alright. So, wow. I'm about to make it a perfect segue, and I don't even mean to do it. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to let the last of the song play out. Don't remind us, Gale. You're preaching to the choir on that one. Also, this ending is absolutely fucking epic. Alright, so, we're going to end tonight with something of a tribute. So yes. The one, the only, the Black Dahlia murder. So, for those of you not aware, unfortunately, the vocalist of this band that you're listening to right now, Trevor Strnad, he, sadly passed away a week ago. This amazing voice of his has been silenced forever. And, to be honest, I have not been taking that news the best. Especially not the night of the announcement. I was useless that entire night. But you can only be so sad for so long. Sometimes, if life's trying to bring you down, the best revenge is to just keep going. So, that's a lot of the way I've been coping. He has left an amazing body of music behind. He will not be forgotten anytime soon. His vocal delivery was indeed a lot of the reason I got into this band. So I discovered them through Rock Band, actually, so technically I could have included them in the Guitar Hero segment. Yes, I did prefer Guitar Hero to Rock Band, but these things happen. But in any case, the rhythm game craze, that's how I discovered this band, and that's what got me into them. This was part of what is usually argued to be their greatest album ever, Nocturnal. That entire album is just banger after banger, all killer, no filler. Although, in a bit of a tragic turn, when they announced Trevor's death, they included a suicide hotline notice, so, not too much of a mystery how he went. Which is sort of ironic because all of my favorite songs from the Black Dahlia murder did indeed have very explicit suicide themes. So, yeah. A lot of, it probably shouldn't have been a surprise what happened, but it's still a tragedy. Still, not the most pleasant thing in the world to think about. Hence why I elected not to include any of those songs on this playlist. Just, not the most tasteful thing in the world. But that's the painful thing about it. A lot of the reason I liked those songs so much is because they were clearly written by somebody who was struggling with depression, who had been there, like, understood what it was like to want to do something like that. So, yeah. On a lighter note, this next song, is not in that wheelhouse, fortunately. Funny little outro. So this was a bit of a gimmick of theirs. They liked their music videos to be on the funnier side. This one, on the other hand, does not have a video because it was an album song. So, this song is essentially a fuck you to their former guitarist, a lead guitarist, who gave so little of a shit about the band by the end of his tenure that he actually improvised all of his lead guitar parts, just because he couldn't be asked to write anything for the band anymore. Although, granted, they were a little more metaphorical than that. This is basically, something more like what would happen in my world. Like an order of knights who has a traitor in their midst. But the subtext is pretty obvious if you know what the situation is. Although, in a further funny coincidence, the guitarist of this song is actually my personal favorite lead guitarist that they ever had, Ryan Knight. He didn't have that active of a role in this particular album because their rhythm guitarist, who is also their principal songwriter, he tends to be their main songwriter, and in this, he was basically still in the mode of dealing with their previous guitarist, who didn't write anything. So Ryan didn't contribute much besides solos to this album, but that changed in the next album, and we'll get to that. That said, what he did lay down is amazing. To say nothing of the fact that I've been through some personal betrayals in my life, so sorry, Solo. Listen to this. Ryan Knight, everybody. So, yeah, like I was about to say, as somebody who's been through some personal betrayals, in my life, I do sort of relate to the lyrics. They haven't fucked me over to the extent that I've, felt quite this violently about it, but generally if something happens to you, even in an exaggerated form, you tend to relate to, songs about it. I got nothing more to say about the song, so I'll just let you listen to it. And now, for something from the album Ritual. So, that's a gimmick I probably forgot to mention. The fact that I'm playing these last four songs in chronological order. First song was from Nocturnal, last one was from Deflorate, as you saw, and this is from Ritual. One of their finest albums. People say it's right behind, people usually say it's right behind Nocturnal. Just an amazing album. And this is a song about werewolves, so how can you go wrong with that? And this is the album where Ryan really decided to contribute to the songwriting process, basically becoming the their former guitarist, whose name is John. Their former guitarist was John. You saw him in the What a Horrible Night video. I love the leads and the chorus of this song. God, Ryan's an amazing songwriter. I wonder if he started that solo project to talk about doing. Because, see, he has been out of the band for quite a while at this point. But, in this case, the split was a lot more amicable. Another detail I forgot about John. He left the band right before a major tour. So they basically had to scramble to find a replacement, and fortunately Ryan was available. However, Blocked Ollie are known for being very big touring workhorses. They spend a lot of time on the road. Very big work ethic on that band. But it eventually ended up wearing down Ryan, and he basically told them a year in advance, listen, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to leave the band, but I'm also going to pick out a replacement for you. Hence their current guitarist, Brandon Ellis. Who is good, but I'm not too familiar with the material they made under him. Like, I've only given, I actually haven't listened to their latest album yet, Verminous, which is a very big regret, considering the current news. And I did listen to, I listened to their first album with Brandon, Nightbringers, once, but, I'm not too familiar with that album, unfortunately. The era we're listening to right now is my era. Yes. Sorry, I'm just getting, besides just loving the song, I also love this video. Rare footage of them not... See, their usual music videos are basically just them screwing around on tour and having fun, but this is actually them making a video that looks like a metal band actually made it. Which is a lot of the reason I love it. So before you ask, there is an uncensored version of the video. You can actually see her assets, but it's on Vimeo last I checked. Anyways, final song. Last song of the playlist. So, there are two reasons I ended with this video. Reason one being, I needed to show off their live shows at least once. They're arguably excessive touring shows in their live albums. They are both amazing. Majesty and Fool 'Em All. Highly recommend them both. I actually did a watch-along of them in my Discord server last week, just after the news broke. And that'll probably not be the last time I do something like that, so if you'd like to join in on something like that, I highly recommend you join. But yes, the other reason I ended with this song... Well, there's actually three reasons now that I think about it. Reason two... being that this is from the last album that I truly got into of theirs, which was Everblack. Absolutely amazing album. Cannot recommend that album enough. People won't say that's their favorite album, but it's one of my favorites. It's personally my third place. Like, I will warn you though, it barely counts as melodic death metal. Like, it's borderline just pure death metal in a lot of ways. It's their darkest and heaviest album, which is a lot of the reason I like it, but a lot of the reason their typical listeners don't like it much. Also, yes, that is somebody in a Stewie costume in the mosh pit. That's Warped Tour for you. Anyways, last reason I ended on the song is because this is a song about the literal Black Dahlia murder. This is from the view of the unidentified person who murdered the actual Elizabeth Short. And the reason they wrote a song like that is because this was part of a big lineup change. I forgot to mention this, but they also had an amazing drummer during the Nocturnal Ritual era. Shannon Lucas. Absolute beast of a drummer, but he only lasted 2 albums. That's why you're seeing this gentleman here, Alan Cassidy, who is also their current drummer. But yes, they were going through the lineup changes. Oh yeah, bassist too. So, in the Horrible Not to Have a Curse video, that was Ryan Williams. And this is Max Lavelle, their current bassist. But back on subject, so yeah, these lineup changes were all happening, people were losing faith in the band, and they basically wrote the song as a fuck you to anybody who doubts them. Like, we are still the Black Dahlia murder, so we're gonna write a song about the Black Dahlia murder. And it was a worthwhile endeavor because this song is a fucking crusher. Like, it's one of the best songs on what's already arguably one of their best albums. Also more Ryan Knight soloing. I will admit it sounds a little better on the album, but it's still a great solo. I'm just gonna let him sing. I'm gonna shut up and let you listen. And that's the end of the official playlist, but there's one more song I want to play. Last minute edition, a little bonus. Just because I want something a little quieter, more emotional to talk over while I say my goodbyes for the night. So, yeah. Hold on a second. So, yeah. I'd like to thank Corpse again for the opportunity to do that. It was really nice getting to show you guys what my taste in music was like, what influenced me, what made me who I am as a person in a lot of ways. And if I'm being honest, this is actually pretty fun for me. I just like sharing what I like to listen to. Just strikes as a fun thing to do. And like I've stated, I already have a good number of ideas for where to go from here. Like again, there's a Guilty Gear playlist. The last 4 songs were all Black Dahlia. Just so many opportunities, like bunch of shit more that I can show you guys. If you're down for that, I'd love to show it to you. But that's for another night. So, yeah. That's the amazing thing about music. It's been with me for my good times, my bad times. It's healed my scars. It's, just, been there for me in my brightest moments, my darkest ones too. Wouldn't trade any of it for the world. Just, grateful for all of it. So, that's pretty much all I got to say for the night, so, pretty much all that I've got to talk about music-wise, so I'm gonna go ahead and, look for a raid target. Because after the song, I think I'm gonna call it a night. So thank you all very much for hanging out. I will be sure to share the playlist publicly once, I'm done with it. So, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for coming. See you Thursday for more Stanley Parable. Thank you all very much. And I've chosen my target. We're going to raid Genevieve Roscoe. Bit of a friend of a friend. Somebody I haven't raided before. Just, why not? Sort of, broaden my connections a bit. So, that'll do it for the night. Thank you for coming, thank you for watching. Let's go say hello to Genevieve. See you Thursday for more Stanley Parable. See you on the weekend, possibly. I still don't know what I'm doing quite yet for that. So, either way, thank you all. See you later in the week. Take it easy.
Oh.